Hello, I'm Rover, and you're about to listen to a chapter of the audio version of my book, The Moongazers, a pirate queer adventure story. This is a 30-chapter series. Are you enjoying this project, and would you like to support me? You can do that by becoming a patron or buy me a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee. Enjoy! Chapter 13. Ray. Frey's alive. She's alive and she's safe, and I don't have to stay in this city any longer. Those are the first thoughts that flash through my mind as I put the shred of paper that arrived at the bar into my pocket. The paper is smudged and dirtied, but I recognize her handwriting, neat and precise. It says I should look at the moon and that she's safe. A strange note that contains a story I cannot figure out. It must be a code or a riddle of some sorts. A way of protecting her location from probing eyes. Thousands of thoughts are swirling through my mind now. I wave at the barkeeper absent-mindedly and step out of the filthy bar, happy I can finally leave this place behind. I've been in this city long enough. I accelerate my pace and I start making a list of all the things I'll need for a long journey. Since the note is so cryptic, I assume Frey isn't close. If what it takes to find Frey again is travel, I'll be on my way. But first, I need to crack the riddle. Frey has always been good at puzzles and riddles. I've always been good at throwing them against the wall. That's how my impatience contributes in solving such conundrums. Finding information in Melshaven isn't an easy task. The local newspaper, printed by an old printing press, isn't a reliable source. The press and the building that houses it have changed hands several times over the recent years. The content, printed on blotchy paper, mostly consists of warnings about the dangers looming outside the walls of Melshaven and propaganda for the group that's currently running the press. Join Peterson if you think order, structure, and a future for your kids are important, and more nonsense of the sort. Frey's alive, and she wants me to find her. Every time I repeat the sentence in my mind, my determination grows. I don't know how I'll do it, but I'll find her. I pass by the house and then walk to the market. The market comes weekly, and as luck has it, it's taking place today. It's hosted on an old square on which small stands, mats, old wheelbarrows, cases and barrels have been set up. The people behind them look fit, not as skinny and malnourished as the average citizen. Maybe that's because they have the privilege of leaving town, of being allowed to look for things in deserted places. There's no better place to look for information than here, where people come to exchange news, where there are people who know of the world outside the city walls. The market is busy and people are examining the wares with careful eyes, holding them up against the light. It is tumultuous, and a group of men surround the market perimeters, keeping an eye on the goings-on. The first stand I encounter is an old cart tended by a tall man with short brown hair. He has plastic cups, water boilers, plastic bottles, worn shoes and some coats. Old and used, but functional. Busy day, I ask while looking in his eyes. I pick up one of the shoes and examine the somewhat dull soles and raggedy shoelaces. So, he mutters. He looks at me with piercing eyes, and I see him evaluating whether I'm here to buy or just to chat. Where did you find this? I ask him. Here and there. Who seeks shall find, he answers, unforthcoming. This must be the way it goes. Back when the Great Change started, there were places where people shared what they had, where they tried to make the best out of a bad situation, communally. But sharing and giving away things had been prohibited in many places, and now, whenever an object changes hands, some sort of compensation is required. Some people are allowed to leave the city and look for new things. Now, 10 years later, most stuff has been worn out and used up. I hesitate to ask this man something about the moon. If I do so, I'll stand out. I'll become a memory. As long as you stick to the normal questions and don't attract attention, you're one with the crowd. I walk past some of the other stands. Stands with old pots, stands and blankets. Stands with old magazines that have been sold, resold, and traded dozens of times because people feel nostalgic about their past lives. Suddenly, I come across something that surprises me. A stand with art supplies, paint, canvases, and shelves of books. Melshaven under Erosmel had been a city that valued normalcy and uniformity. Things like art, self-expression, or simply being different or a minority in whatever way was met with disapproval. Such people and activities were discouraged and hidden from view. Apparently, people sense there's more room for this now. I scan the title of the books, some of which are well known, others less so. I even see a dictionary in a strange language. It's almost inappropriate, dangerous even. Everyone is supposed to speak the same language here. The woman behind the stand notices my presence and nods at me. This person, who has the courage to sell these things, might be the one that can provide me with the information I'm looking for. Do you have anything about the moon? About how I take a good look at it? The woman looks at me with surprise, but I also see her shifting her weight from one leg to the other uneasily. She walks towards me and looks at the books. Here's one about werewolves. You know that some people turn into werewolves at full moon? She presses the book into my hands and walks back to her spot behind the stand. What's it worth to you? She asks. I walk up to her, close enough to show her the piece of dry hare meat that I snatched from my stock at home. She looks at me, then at the meat and back at me again. I could also just call the security man, so I'll get the meat without losing my book, she said quietly. You could call the man, and you might lose the meat, or you might have to share it. But if I give it to you now, it's all for you. I try to radiate confidence, but this woman with her ash blonde hair and pointy face doesn't flinch and doesn't recoil. I see her opening her mouth, ready to warn the security guards on the other side of the square. Let's not escalate the situation here, I say, as calmly and friendly as I can. I have something you want, and I'm willing to give it to you in exchange for some information and a book. Isn't that a good deal? She looks at me bewildered. Where do you think my revenues go, you silly child? You think I can just go home with a piece of illegal meat in my bag without anyone looking at my earnings? We have to show everything we acquire, and if I pull this piece of meat out of my pocket, they'll be sure to ask me why I didn't turn you in. I've lost enough already, so either offer me something else or get out of here. Her eyes are aflame, and for a moment we stand there eyeing each other like cats, each waiting for the other to make the first move. Sorry, can I ask you something? I hear a voice coming from the other side of the stand. The woman and I break eye contact as the new customer approaches. Sure, the woman says, and I take my chance to leave the market quietly. Shit, I can only think. Obviously, I knew the revenue from the market wasn't just for the salespeople, but this level of control? Sometimes it feels like I still don't know anything about this city. Like every time I think I get the rules, they change again. Maybe this wasn't such a great idea after all. Maybe I'd better ask someone who actually has information, like Peterson or some other big shot. I feel frustrated. I want to get answers as soon as possible, but I've already made myself suspicious at the market. On my way back, I walk into the bar again. The quiet inside the place contrasts with the murmur inside of me. A nervous energy fills my body, and a bleak thought surges within me. What if I cannot solve the riddle? The bartender is absorbed in cleaning glass jugs and takes a fright when he sees me. Do you know what I'll find if I look at the moon? I ask him straight away. He peeps at me and says slowly, You better be careful now. Don't you stick your nose somewhere where it don't belong. I kept my mouth shut about your questions before. I kept that note for you. I didn't even look at it. So don't you go and tempt fate now. I glare at him, and I feel all reason leave my body. There's a loud noise of glass shattering as I sweep the jugs he stacked so neatly from the bar. I avoid treading on the glass shards littering the floor on my way out, as I slam the door shut. I walk home with long, angry strides. I try to count to 10. I'm not as good as Frey as getting people to talk, but I have to use all my willpower I can muster to restrain myself from going back to the bar and putting a knife under the man's nails. I look for free textures, free smells, and free sounds. Try to align my pounding head with reality. If I'm being honest, I'm lucky he didn't send anyone after me. Even though I'm overjoyed that Frey's alive, I realize it won't be that easy to find her, and this infuriates me. But I can't allow myself to lose my patience that easily, because this isn't just about me. Sera's distant relative can't be seen asking strange questions and having angry outbursts in the local shady establishment. Much has changed at home over the last few weeks. We eat together every night. I don't see Vitran loitering on the streets as much anymore. One morning a couple of weeks ago, a tall man with short hair and a rigid face came knocking on the door to collect Vitran. His name was Erik, and he said he would take Vitran to school and bring him back in the afternoon. Vitran had thrown me a sulky look. Sera had been cheery about the whole thing and chatted to the man as if she'd known him for years, as she tends to do with everyone. Vitran went along reluctantly. His mother had told everyone who crossed her path that her son would be an electrician one day, when power was restored and everything went back to normal. When I open the door, still lost in thought, Vitran jumps up from his chair immediately and starts babbling away. This guy is nuts, Ray. I'm telling you, he's completely insane. Tell Mom I don't want to go. He's stroking these wires all the time, explaining how it works, but it's not working. None of it. He has sockets and lamps and whatnot, but there's definitely no light coming out of them. Today, he brought some cold black rectangles and said people used to talk to each other through them. Is that for real? I shrug. I guess it used to work like that once, but you must be learning some useful things, no? He looks at me. Yeah, sure, useful. I'm sitting in a room with two other kids, listening to a lot of blah blah from this crazy guy, and he stinks. And in the afternoons, I have to help out whatever stupid chores they have in the fortress. I just want to go outside and play, but every time I want to leave, that stupid giant guy stops me. Erik. He was there that night they killed the card maker. He kicked him too. Those Peterson guys are really nasty people. While he goes on about his day, I sit down and try to stop my attention from wandering off to Frey every other second. Tell me, Vitran, if I want to find out about something, a secret, how can I get that information? He falls silent abruptly and looks at me curiously. What do you need to know? Doesn't matter. He thinks for a minute. Have you asked at the market? Folks there talk a lot. I start to feel a bit annoyed with myself. Maybe I haven't been subtle enough. How strange is it, Vitran, that we eat hare meat every once in a while? The boy starts laughing. Did you try bartering the meat? And then he adds seriously, how did you get away? As inconspicuous as I could, I said quietly, with a glint in my eye. I would have loved to see that, he cheers. All food goes through the distribution center of the neighborhood. You can get more if you do something important. But if you make or take something yourself, it's illegal, and if they find out, they'll say you stole it. And no one ever leaves the city without permission, so that meat is as illegal as it gets. We stay silent for a while. Do you have any other ideas how I can find out things? He looks at me again. Edelsmel's men knew everything about everything. A few of them are still around. One of them lives 3 blocks away from here. Kind of a surly guy. Vitran looks pensive, as if he considers it a great honor that I'm asking him for help, and he wants to produce a worthy answer. Last week I was in Edelsmel's office to clean. Maybe there's something to be found there? Do you want me to ask around? What do you want to know exactly? He says enthusiastically. No, you stay out of it, boy, I say, and try to switch topics. But Vitran, possibly somewhat disappointed at having been shut out, picks up his jacket and walks out of the door. I'm off doing fun stuff, bye. He slams the door shut and leaves me alone in an empty house. Time to think. That night I look at the moon and think about Frey and how kind she'd been to me. When I arrived at the base and introduced myself as Ray, they, them, I was punished by Tormund immediately. He made it instantly clear he would not tolerate that sort of monstrous abnormalities and unnatural delusions on his base. He had thrown me into a small, cold room without any food and drink, and every day he came by to ask me whether I was ready to embrace my true self. I endured it for a week. Then I was put in a shared room with Frey, and it was Frey who saved parts of her meals for me so I could recover my strength. She didn't talk much. When I told Frey how I had arrived here, she donned a wide grin. I had let all the animals of the zoo escape. I had felt sad for the animals being locked up, because no animal belongs in a cage. I was quick, sly, and no one took note of me. It had been the first thing I did when I arrived in the city, and Frey laughed when I told her the story. We were young, maybe 12 years old. The idea of pandas, penguins, and tigers strolling around the city seemed hilarious to us. Looking back, it still makes me laugh, but a loose tiger in town is dangerous too. I just hope nobody died because of it. When the local militia got a hold of me, they were impressed with what I had done, so they handed me to Torben, who was known to take in talented orphan kids. My parents had passed away a few months earlier. Some people had been taken by surprise when the Great Change happened, but there had been others who had seen it coming. People who had understood that climate change, the wars across the world, and the unraveling of the great powers had led us to a tipping point. My parents were among those people. We lived on a terrain with a bunker, together with another family who were armed to the teeth. Some expected zombies, others civil war. I don't know what my parents had imagined would happen. But when the Great Change came, we had everything. They were almost cheerful at being proven right. But all their preparations hadn't helped to cure the disease they got from eating a badly picked mushroom. I hadn't been there. I'd been sent off to hunt on my own, by way of exercise. But when I came back, everyone was dead. I buried all of them myself, 4 adults. I stayed around there until I couldn't stand the loneliness anymore and I left for the city. So many children had been left without their parents during the Great Change, left looking for a place to come home to. And even if I hadn't planned it that way, Frey became my home. From my room, I hear Sarah coming home. It's late already, but I'm not about to ask her what she's been up to. I hear her moving through the house, humming all the while. She sleeps in one bed with Vitran, and I hear her speaking softly to him in a language I don't know the name of. And I feel a little less alone.